On the morning of June 3rd, 1998, a German family was enjoying their coffee while traveling on a high-speed train from Munich to Hamburg. Everything seemed perfectly normal around 10:30 a.m. But just 12 minutes later, their peaceful journey turned into terror when a piece of steel suddenly tore through the floor, right between their seats. That was only the beginning of the deadliest accident in German high-speed train history. Welcome back to Zim Voice viewers. In the late 1950s, Japan shocked the world by introducing the Shinkansen, the first high-speed bullet train. It connected cities like never before and made long journeys incredibly fast. What once took hours could now be done in minutes. Following Japan's success, France and Italy built their own high-speed rail systems. Soon after, Germany joined the race with its own project, the Intercity Express, or ICE. When ICE trains debuted in the 1980s, the world saw them as the future of transportation, with sleek aerodynamic designs, advanced computer systems, and unmatched comfort. Everything seemed flawless. But every perfect system hides a weakness. For the ICE, that weakness was its wheels. The first generation ICE trains used monoblock wheels, made from a single solid piece of steel, strong, cheap, and reliable. But over time, passengers began complaining about strange vibrations at high speeds. In the dining car, glasses and cutlery rattled constantly, making the journey uncomfortable. When engineers investigated, they discovered the cause imbalance in the monoblock wheels. Even a few grams of uneven wear could create intense vibrations when rotating at thousands of revolutions per minute. It's similar to car wheels. If one side is slightly heavier, the wheel vibrates more at higher speeds. That's why wheel balancing is done on cars. But balancing train wheels, especially solid steel ones, is far more complex and expensive. To fix the problem, German engineers designed a new type of wheel, the resilient wheel. Unlike the one-piece monoblock, resilient wheels had an inner steel ring, an outer ring, and a rubber layer between them to absorb vibration. The design was clever when the outer layer wore out. Only that part needed replacing, not the entire wheel. This design had worked well for trams, but trams ran at only 30 kilometers per h. ICE trains traveled at 250 kilometers per h. That crucial difference was ignored. Without proper testing, executives approved the resilient wheels, and by 1992, all ICE trains were fitted with them. For several years, everything seemed fine. But in 1997, a tram company in Hanover noticed cracks forming in their resilient wheels. They replaced them and even warned Deutsche Bahn, Germany's national railway company. But because ICE trains hadn't shown any vibration issues, Deutsche Bahn ignored the warning. And then, 1 year later, June 3rd, 1998, disaster struck. At 10:30 a.m., ICE train 884 departed Hanover for Hamburg. It had 14 cars in total, 2 power cars, and 12 passenger coaches carrying 287 passengers and 8 crew members. Everything seemed normal. In Coach 1, George Dittman and his family were enjoying their trip. But a few minutes later, something slammed into the floor beneath them. A sharp piece of steel ripped through the floor between their seats, part of the train's wheel. Shocked and terrified, George quickly sent his wife and children to another coach and ran to find the conductor. The conductor was in the third coach. George explained what happened, but company policy required the conductor to see the issue himself before stopping the train. So the two men walked back toward the first coach as the train continued speeding at 200 kilometers per h. By the time they reached the front, the train had already traveled 3 kilometers further and was approaching a track junction where the rails split. The broken wheel piece was still hanging beneath the train, scraping along the track. When the train hit the junction, that metal fragment struck the track switch lever, forcing it to change position while the train was still passing over it. In that instant, the first two coaches went onto one track, while the third coach was diverted onto another. The entire train twisted violently. Coach 3 smashed directly into a concrete bridge pillar, shattering the structure. The fourth coach hit an embankment, killing 3 railway workers nearby. The fifth and sixth coaches were crushed under the 300-ton concrete bridge as it collapsed, flattening them to just 6 inches in height. The rest of the coaches, 7, 8, 9, and 10, crashed into each other at full speed, folding like paper. Only the first 2 coaches, where George and his family sat, survived. The front locomotive finally came to a stop, 3 kilometers ahead. In the nearby town of Esquite, locals heard the deafening crash and rushed to the site. What they saw was beyond comprehension. Mangled steel, fire, screams, and devastation everywhere. Some passengers were trapped inside their seats. Others were buried under debris. The pressure-proof windows were nearly impossible to break. Rescue teams had to bring in heavy machinery, but even then, it took hours to reach the first survivors. Over 1,000 rescue workers, including soldiers and doctors, joined the operation. By then, the tragedy had already taken its toll. 101 people were dead, 88 seriously injured, and around 100 more suffered minor injuries. The ice, once considered one of the safest trains in the world, had just caused the worst high-speed rail disaster in history. The crash shook not only Germany, but every nation operating high-speed trains: France, Italy, Japan, and beyond. Investigators initially suspected a car might have been on the tracks, but when they found the broken wheel fragment that had pierced Coach 1's floor, the truth became clear. Maintenance logs revealed that the same wheel had reported a flat spot issue 8 times before, yet was never replaced. Germany already had machines capable of detecting cracks, but inspections were still done manually with flashlights. Engineers complained that the machines gave false alarms, so management dismissed their use. Back in 1992, a German research institute, Fraunhofer, had already warned that resilient wheels were unsafe for high-speed trains. The Hanover Tram Company repeated that warning in 1997. Both were ignored. Later analysis showed that the train's steel tires rotated 500,000 times a day at high speed. Each rotation slightly compressed and expanded the steel, slowly creating fatigue cracks. The rubber layer between the wheel parts absorbed the vibrations, hiding any signs of danger until it was too late. And finally, on June 3rd, 1998, one wheel gave way and an entire train was destroyed. Guys, The Esquade disaster remains the deadliest high-speed train crash in history. Afterward, Germany immediately replaced all resilient wheels with monoblock designs and relocated bridges away from track junctions to prevent similar tragedies. The rescue protocols and window designs were also changed, allowing passengers to be freed faster in future emergencies. Today, the Esquade crash is still taught as a case study in German railway training, centers a tragic reminder that even small design compromises can lead to unimaginable consequences. Monoblock wheels may cost more and require more maintenance, but at least they don't break apart. And when vibrations occur, they serve as a warning, not a silent killer. Thank you for watching Zim Voice.